and this is my capstone project number 1, which is a sleep study analysis and to determine the factors that impact your sleep. So the goal of this study is going to be to take a data set and then based on 3 different factors, gender, age, occupation, to see if there's an impact on your sleep, on the sleep duration, but also the sleep quality. Finally, this analysis will also cover sleep disorders and whether other factors, certain factors, for example, gender or BMI, can also impact your whether you could be potentially impacted by a sleep disorder or not. So the data set that I work with is the one provided by M2M, which is the health, sleep, and lifestyle data set. It includes a variety of data points, including gender, age, occupation, but also sleep duration, quality of sleep, BMI, sleep disorders, and more. So it's a very complete data set that allows us to do a lot of analysis and a lot of manipulation in order to figure out if there's a correlation between two different between sleep and other factors, for example, gender, age, occupation. So in order to, the technology used in order to do this analysis, first of all, are Panda. So Panda is an open source data analysis and manipulation tool. It is built on top of Python, and it was mainly used to clean and manipulate the dataset. So here's a little code snippets to give you an example of how it was done. For example, I used Panda to import, obviously, the CSV, and then to do some standardization of the data. So first of all, the first standardization that I did was for sleep disorder. Sleep disorder are either sleep apnea or insomnia, or in the case where someone doesn't have a sleeping disorder, it was left blank at first. I wanted to be able to group it, so I changed all the blank value to no disorder instead. That allowed me to do some grouping later on in the process and to include people who do not have any sleep disorder as one of the groups in my analysis. The second thing that cleaning up that I did was for the BMI category. Some of the records had normal weight, some of them had just normal. So in order to standardize everything, I transformed the ones that were normal weight into normal instead to help later on in the process. The second technology used is Bokeh. So that is a Python library used for interactive visualizations. In this particular analysis, it was used to create bar and pie chart. It comes with a whole bunch of built-in functionalities, including legend, tooltips, and more. So you will see how later on the rendered result and how it looks like. But here's the code. For example, a bit of an example of a code where Panda and Bokeh are both used in order to generate a chart. So for example, based on our data set, I was able to create groups and to group them by gender. So I created a group for the male, I created a group for the female. Then I was able to get all the sleep durations for the female and calculate the mean in order to figure out what is the average duration sleep per gender. So I created an average for female, I created an average for male, put them together in an array called average. Then if you go further below, plotting average sleep duration per gender, you can see that I create a source. So that is a column data source, which is a dictionary with the genders, male and female, the averages, and colors. So one color per gender. With that source, I was able to then create a figure. So in this particular case, it's just the X and Y with a title, average sleep durations by gender. That source was then used in order to create the bar chart. So in this particular case, this is a vertical bar with the X gendered, the Y averages, and then the colors. A legend will be then created based on those gendered. And then you pass in the source, which is a dictionary that I created with the genders and the averages. And then there's a whole bunch of other customization, including the creation of a legend and the ability to put them somewhere. And then finally, I added a little tooltip in order to be able to add some interactivity to my chart. So if you want to see the rendered result, which is once the code is compiled, what does it look like? You'll see it right there. So you can see the X, which is male, female, the Y, which is the average, which is a numerical range. And then you can see the legend, male, female, along with the color and even the tooltip. So the first factor that was used, that was for this analysis, is gendered. So figuring out if gender has something to do with the amount of sleep or the quality of sleep that you get. So for when it comes to the duration, there's not a big difference between men and women. Women do, however, need more sleep. On average, they get 12 additional minutes of sleep, contrary to men. When it comes to quality, however, they are at 7.7 compared to men that are only at 7. So it feels like women not only need more sleep, but when they do get sleep, it's a better quality than the men. This finding is corroborated by the Sleep Foundation findings. So Sleep Foundation is an organization that studies the sleep, and basically according to the Sleep Foundation, studies have shown that women fall asleep faster and spend more time in deep sleep, suggesting a greater need for sleep. And it can be, there's a few possible reasons why women might need more sleep, like more than men, like factors that really disproportionately affect more women than men. First of all, there's caregiving duties, especially women who have children. Obviously, statistically speaking, women who have children or, home duties, they tend to do more at home than men. And so obviously, by the time you get to bed, you're more tired. And so as a result, you have a greater need for sleep. The second thing that would affect women when it comes to their need for sleep is hormones. Women have periods, obviously. And so with periods come headaches, cramps, and things like that. Women also who are menopause also have hot flashes, and hot flashes have a tendency to happen at night. And when it does, obviously that wakes you up, and so you have to sleep more in order to catch up on those lost amount of sleep that you're getting, that the men are not impacted by. And unfortunately, women are also more likely to suffer from sleep disorders. So 40% more likely to have insomnia rather than men. So we'll talk later a little bit about the gender and the sleep disorders at the end of this analysis. But here are a few reasons why women do need indeed to sleep more in order to have the same energy when they wake up as the men. The second factor is age. Essentially, the older you get, the more sleep you need. That's not rocket science. I did a little analysis where I took the data set and I grouped them by decades. So as you can see from the graph, the younger you are, the less sleep you get, which makes sense. I feel like we all have this memory of having maybe a midterm or finals and then studying until 2 or 3 in the morning, waking up at 7, and then straight into the exam. So it's not unusual for younger people to sleep maybe a little less. And then once you get older, once you get your 30s, 40s, 50s, you have less energy. You may also have like children, jobs, and things like that takes more energy out of you. And so you need more sleep, essentially. So it makes sense that the 20s sleep the least. They sleep on average 6.5 hours versus the 50s. People in their 50s, they sleep more like 7.6 hours. It also goes with the quality of sleep. Obviously, in the 20s, if you're not sleeping a lot, you're probably not also getting the greatest sleep. Rather, contrary to the 30s, 40s, 50s, whereas you get older, you may also have invested into the quality of your sleep. And by that, I mean buying a good mattress, buying a good pillow, getting the good sheets, all that kind of stuff that make sure that you get the best sleep you need in order to wake up energized. Factor number 3, occupation. So the question being, does your job impact the quality of your sleep? And I think that's also pretty, I want to say obvious, but certainly job job security has an impact on your sleep. For example, we can see from this data set that the engineers sleep the most at 8 hours a day versus the sales representative that sleep the least at 5.9 hours. And I think that makes sense because engineers have this typical, like 9 to 5. They have job security. It's a very in-demand industry. The salaries are pretty good. And so obviously when they have less stress compared to maybe sales representative, which have like their salary is usually based around commissions, their hours are also not set. They don't have like a regular 9 to 5. They kind of work when their clients need them. And if they need them late at night or early in the morning, then they wake up at that time when they need to, essentially. So I think the security and the like routine of your job also probably has an impact on the quality and the duration of your sleep. And you can also see, so the average sleep quality, so per profession, the engineers also have the base quality at 8.4 versus a sales representative who, again, sleep the least, also have the worst sleep quality, which is only at 4. So that was for all the different factors, so age, occupation, and gender. Now, finally, this different sleep disorder. So out of the data set, you have there's 374 people. Now, most of them, like more than half of them, do not suffer from any sleep disorders. So 59% of them do not. However, out of the ones who do, it's pretty evenly split between the insomnia and the sleep apnea. So both of them are basically at 21% of people either suffer from sleep apnea or insomnia. One of the factors that could be contributing to it, especially in the case of sleep apnea, is weight. So people who do suffer from sleep disorders, so in our particulars, that's 155 people, 90% of them are either overweight or obese. That is corroborated by, again, the Sleep Foundation. So basically the possible reason for this is that when you have a greater weight, especially in your chest and neck area, when you lie down, this extra weight compresses your lung and your upper body airway. And so when you sleep and you need to breathe, it's harder for you to breathe, essentially. So the first symptom usually of sleep apnea will be snoring. So usually people will start first of all snoring, and then when snoring and essentially after that, when the airway is even more compressed, that's usually when the sleep apnea happens, where you stop breathing essentially, and you have a period where you're essentially in apnea, which is basically what the name suggests. And so at that point, once you reach that stage, you either probably need a sleep machine in order to help you getting that oxygen you need to for your brains and whatnot. So weight is a factor when it comes to sleep apnea. The second factor is gender. So as I mentioned earlier in the analysis, women are more likely to have insomnia. And we can see from this graph that indeed, when it comes to sleep disorders, women are disproportionately more affected. And one of the reasons for that, according to the Sleep Foundation, is that women are also more likely to have anxiety or depressions, which are two strong factors when it comes to insomnia. So the conclusion is that sleep is a very important part of the day. It is very important to get a good quality of sleep and a good amount of sleep in order to be energized the next day. There are a few factors that could impact the quality of your sleep. In particular, so gender, so women in particular need more sleep because of hormones, because of home duties, because of like their different responsibilities and whatnot. The age, so the older you are, the more sleep you need. We say age, but in general, I think it's just energy. The older you get, the less energy you have, the more sleep you need. Job, of course, job stress, job precarity affect the duration and the quality of your sleep. Obviously, if you're worrying about paying the bills, you are not going to sleep very well. So making sure that like you have you manage either your job stress or you find a job that has a manageable level of stress, has job security, will help you get better quality of sleep. At the end, finally, when it comes to sleep disorders, whether it's sleep apnea or insomnia, women are more likely to have sleep disorders because of anxiety and depression, and people with greater weight are more likely to suffer from sleep disorder, especially sleep apnea. So do not hesitate to go to your doctors and talk to them if you suffer from either sleep apnea or insomnia. It is important for you. This is like it. Sleep really does impact your quality of life. So do not hesitate to get the help you need in order to make sure you can have the greatest quality of life possible. So this is it for this presentation. Thank you so much for listening until the end, and then I'll see you soon.